are back. I'm your host, Barry Waxler. Here with my co-host, Andrea Kay and Urban Miaris. And we have our next guest, which I have a feeling we're going to have a little bit of trouble getting a couple words in edgewise between Urban and Mike Sabellico here. So
right.
Welcome, Mike Sabellico from the Disabled Veteran Business Alliance.
Thank you, Barry. Thanks for having me on the show.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit about disabled. It's a long word to say. Disabled Veteran Business Alliance. I'm sorry.
Sure. The Disabled Veteran Business Alliance was started in 1994, and what it is, it's an organization that helps make sure the legislation remains intact from the state of California for the 3% set aside. So as a state, we set aside 25% of the state budget to go in the form of prime contracts to small business, additional 3% to disabled veteran business enterprises.
Wow. So, Urban, I take it this is something you're familiar with?
Yes.
So
I can remember when the movement started in Washington, and John Lopez actually started in California. I'd say he was the founder of it. It's targeting mostly service-connected disabled veterans, unfortunately. But then again, there's so many veterans who are while in military or as a result of military became disabled.
Mm-hmm.
And preferences or something to make the playing field easier in business is definitely needed.
Yeah.
So, great organization here.
I have to sidetrack for 1 second here because Mike was telling us a story before we got on air, and you've done. Thank you for your service, by the way.
You're
welcome. Tell us a little bit about what you did when you were in the Coast Guard.
Sure. I was fairly lucky in the Coast Guard. I was at the pointy end of the spear, so to speak, and had a lot of commanding officer and executive officer jobs. I think you're talking about the story regarding the perfect storm.
Perfect storm,
yeah.
Right, so
where else would I go? Come on.
Right, we got to bring the thrills to our audience today, Mike.
I had just reported aboard to the Rescue Coordination Center in Boston, Massachusetts, and I was fresh out of SAR school, which is where you learn how to plan a search. And the perfect storm hit the New England coast, and the Andrea Gale, which was the fishing vessel that sank off of the Newfoundland coast, actually. I planned that search. Unfortunately, it was not successful, but we had many rescues going on during that time, and it was a very hectic period in the operations center. We had all of our controllers in, and normally you'd stand a 24-hour watch, and you'd get a little bit of sleep, but we had all 4 controllers in at once. We were up for about 72 hours straight
wow.
trying to help everybody.
Did the movie, and did the movie depict it accurately, the size of those waves and what the conditions were like for the Coast Guard?
I think it was fairly accurate. I've been out in Alaska. I was on a 400-foot ship, and a fishing vessel sank 25 miles from us, and we couldn't get there for almost 40 hours because we were in 30-foot seas. So
wow.
a fishing vessel that size, I can't imagine being in 30 or 40-foot seas. It must have just been terrifying for the crew of the fishing boat.
But not terrifying for the Coast Guard? I mean, you didn't see waves and go, you know what,
No, the motto in the Coast Guard used to be you have to go out, but you don't have to come back. Well, we've tried to make that a little more real. But you do find Coast Guard cutters and aircraft going out when everyone else is coming in to get ready for any kind of emergency that's going to happen off the coast.
Wow. Now, were you also involved in sending out the rescue divers, those guys that jump into those waves? I mean, that's crazy. That's insane.
Pararescuemen actually came from the Air National Guard, and those guys are complete studs. They can, they're jumping out of an airplane, they're swimming with a knife in their mouth, they're going up and they're doing surgery, and then they're swimming home. They don't even take a ride home on the boat. So.
But 15 years later, they're on a walker because, I mean, you can only take so much of that, right?
And unfortunately, we lost the pararescuemen during that evolution. There was a sailing vessel, Satori, that was off the coast of Long Island, and they wanted to get the crew off, and we put pararescuemen in, and they were coming home, and they could not refuel the helicopter. The helicopter ditched, and we lost a pararescueman.
Wow. So how do you go from that kind of excitement to running a couple organizations, one nonprofit?
Well, the Alliance, and John Lopez, as Urban mentioned, is one of the founding people for the organization. And it's a fantastic organization because it gives veterans a little bit of guidance on how to start their own business. And veterans are more entrepreneurial than the average citizen. We've done studies, and 70% of all small business fails, but only half that rate if it's a veteran-owned or a service-disabled veteran-owned company.
Why do you think that is?
Great minds think alike.
Pinch.
I think it's from from myself. When I went to the Coast Guard Academy, I was fairly rebellious, and I needed a little bit of training, so to speak. So it taught me to be reliable, taught me to be on time, taught me the value of being loyal. So I think those things that you learn in the military, and you get a lot of leadership at a younger age in the military. You find these Marines over in Iraq and Afghanistan, they're in charge of a platoon, at a 24, 25 years old, and they're responsible for the lives of their fellow Marines. So you take that and you translate back into business, and business decisions seem really small compared to that. So you're not as nervous, I think, and you're a little bit more confident. Plus, when you come back out of the military, I think you want to do something where you're your own boss, and you get
Yeah.
that, and you really enjoy that. So I think that's some of the things that make veterans and disabled vets more successful.
Interesting. I never put that correlation to it. I
Me
know
neither.
why I went into business for myself, which was very similar, but a different reason that I won't go into on air. But
I thought it was
the
just you wanted to make a lot of money.
yeah, no, that was the side part of it, but there was some other reasons too. But anyway, the working with veterans, they seem to have a lot more focus and drive. And I guess it's probably more of a discipline issue than focus and drive. Would you say?
Definitely. I mean, if veterans aren't starting their own companies, I think the population of vets is going to explode in Southern California over the next 3 to 5 years as the forces draw back. We end the conflict in Afghanistan and Iraq. Uh, we're going to see a lot more vets between 20 and 28 years old in Southern California.
So
So
what?
those guys are going to want to be hired. Those guys and gals are going to want to be hired, and you can't get a better employee, in my opinion, because they are reliable. They know
Mhm.
the value of loyalty.
So what advice would you give our veterans coming out of service right now? Anything that you would tell them as they're getting acclimated into life outside the military?
Sure, my plan when I left the military was I had 90 days of terminal leave that the government was paying me for. So my plan was eat pizza, drink beer, watch football. Eat beer, drink pizza, watch football. Repeat as necessary.
That was
They
my
Sounds
don't
like
plan.
Fourth
That
of
was my
July
plan.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they don't think about what they're going to do right away. They just know they're ready to get out of the military. So they take that 3 to 6 months, they decompress. There's tremendous programs out there. The post 9/11 GI Bill is fantastic. So if you're a younger veteran and you haven't had, an educational experience where you're going to college or getting a master's degree, take advantage of that. It's 3 years. You're paid to go to school. Actually paid to go to school. So no cost for tuition and books, and they give you a stipend of about $2,000 a month here in Southern California.
Wow.
So you take advantage of that, then you figure out what you want to do.
Okay.
There
You're
really
listening
is so
to uh,
much.
you're listening to Close Up on San Diego Business here on KFSD AM 1450 and financialnewsandtalk.com. I'm your host Barry Waxler here with my co-hosts Andrea Kay and Urban Miaris, and our guest is Mike Sabellico from Disabled Veteran Business Alliance. So, Mike, you also have another company that we don't want to ignore on air here. Tell us about Vanguard Global Solutions.
Sure, but I'm gonna take a little sidekick here,
Okay.
Barry, and I'll talk about the Orange County Small Business Development Center a little bit first,
Okay,
which is
great.
one of the things it's an organization that I consult for. So all small business should know about that. There's a SBDC here in San Diego. There's also a PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center here in San Diego, and it's a government-funded agency by the SBA. And you, as a small business owner, can go in and get free expert guidance help on anything: social media, accounting,
Mm.
business plan writing, how to get a loan, all kinds of things. So the Orange County SBDC and the one here in San Diego is fantastic. It's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs to get some help. Vanguard Global Solutions is the personal business that I started in 2010, and I've used my experience in the Coast Guard with emergency preparedness and homeland security to do the same type of thing with Vanguard Global. So we do some products, we do some service. I help other companies learn how to do business with the federal government, but we sell oxygen generating systems and some emergency protective equipment for firefighters.
Well,
Interesting. Now, tell me about those products.
Well, the oxygen generating systems are pretty cool because they take the air around us and they filter out all the nitrogen and the other impurities, and it comes up with 93 to 95% medical grade oxygen.
I sure could use that next time I got to go to LA.
Noted.
Yeah. All right. So why just for firefighters? It seems like they can maybe use something like that even on the battlefield.
Well, we do make a military version of the product. It's a little more rugged, so it can be dropped into a combat zone. We also do a lot of work with third world countries because They use them in their hospitals. We haven't broken into the U.S. hospital market here. They prefer liquid oxygen, which is 99.9% medical grade oxygen, and it's predominantly because the anesthesiologists like to work with pure oxygen. But when you put an oxygen mask on, you're not getting 99% oxygen anyways. You're getting about 70%. So the difference between 93 to 99% really doesn't affect the average patient.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
You know, the audience out there and veterans especially got to realize that just because there's a disability, even though it may be a catastrophic disability, you still can contribute. There are many successful veterans who are severely or catastrophically disabled who are in the business world, and you just don't realize it. You're already buying their products and services. However, the more severely disabled, especially a veteran is, the less you know about the owner, them, or their disability, because we sort of have to hide it in the background. But some of your major corporations are run and owned by disabled veterans, some of them being quite severely disabled. You wouldn't even imagine
Mm-hmm.
that you saw them in the street. You wouldn't even imagine they could be a business owner of with 100,000 or tens of thousand employees.
Yeah. Well, I think
We contribute. We can contribute. Just because we've served doesn't mean we haven't stopped serving.
Yeah, I think
Right.
urban is evidence of everything you've talked about. I've heard the story after story after story of Urban being told he can't do this and he can't do that, but after he left the military, 23 businesses and two nonprofits, and both you guys, my hat is off to you. I did a short stint in the Navy, and you guys did a lot more than I did, so my hat's off to you.
Well, but you're still serving the community and
We're
on
working. We're
Urban's
trying.
board, and you're still
So.
doing good.
I didn't serve. I was drafted.
Well,
Well, the Disabled Veteran Alliance is a way that veterans can get help, and they're not looking for a handout; they're looking for a hand up. So you think of all the folks that they're competing with in the market. They've been, they're behind them. They haven't been in the business world for 4, 6, 8 years, whatever they did. So we're trying to make sure that they get the help that they need to get up to that level quickly and then be successful.
It's great. When I came back in '68, there was nothing for disabled, and now there are so many resources. And regardless of your condition, whether you have a hidden or obvious disability as a veteran, these organizations, if they can help you, they will refer you. We all know one another,
And it's
and
all because of pioneers like you guys. So, and I got to tell you that. Hey, before we're starting to run short on time, so I'm going to make a suggestion that if we have some veterans listening, or some people that know some veterans, probably one of their first steps they should take when they get out would be to contact your organization, wouldn't it?
Definitely.
Okay. Tell us how we get in touch with you.
Sure. So the website's probably the best way, and that's www.dvba.org. Again, www.dvba.org. You can always try calling the office up in Sacramento, and it's manned during normal business hours. We're not 24/7 like Leon, but we have somebody in the office Monday through Friday, and that's 916-446-3510 in Sacramento.
Great. Great. So we have, actually, it looks like we're out of time. So I want to thank you for being with us, Mike.
My pleasure.
Disabled Veteran Business Alliance and Vanguard Global Solutions. We appreciate your time, your service, and all that you do. You're listening to Close Up on San Diego Business, where we get up close and personal with homegrown San Diego businesses and the people that are working hard to make a difference in our community. This is financialnewsandtalk.com. I'm your host, Barry Waxler. We'll be right back after the break with more homegrown business Close Up and Nicole Donnelly from Miramar Kitchen and Bath.